Wow. Our topic this morning is how to make a spiritual chain reaction, and I think they just did. Wonderful. My Kevin is in school studying to be a therapist. He analyzes me a lot. Actually, it's quite helpful. No, to be honest, I'm really enjoying learning what he's learning, through reading his homework. It's just wonderful. And recently he was telling me he's learning about anger and how anger may be an indicator that a boundary has been crossed, And it's not good or bad information, it's just data. It's information that something important is happening for your core. And I think sometimes we discover where our boundaries are by having them violated. And then we experience that sometimes as anger. And then the question arises, well, now what do I do with that data? What do I do with that information? What's the productive thing to do with that? Because what I do will set in motion a chain reaction in the world. So I want to look at where am I coming from when I act. I'm so grateful to be part of a spiritual community where I can acknowledge all of the complex emotions and feelings that come up in me. I'm so grateful to be part of a spiritual community that doesn't shame me for the times I get emotionally messy or confused or overwhelmed. And I'm so grateful to be part of a spiritual community that calls me to do something that leads to higher ground for everyone. Because like many people right now at the moment, I've been feeling overwhelmed. I've been feeling confused. I've been feeling angry. And I'm careful about acting from that place. I was feeling all of those feelings when I received an email from a colleague of mine that she sent to her people. She wrote, "Many of us have been affected by the separation of children from their families in the recent news reports of immigration activities at the U.S. border. Our hearts cry out in pain because our capacity to love has expanded to include people we will never know. As congregants of the Center for Spiritual Living, we also know that because of the principle of unity of all life, we are affected at some level when harm is done to another. So please join me in affirming," she writes, "that an elegant resolution to these tragic events is making its way through the minds and hearts of those in power. Human beings are creative, visionary, and compassionate, and I hold in prayer that a creative, visionary, and compassionate solution to humane border control is being downloaded into the minds and hearts of our country's leaders now." And then she calls us to read a statement from our founder, Ernest Holmes, and I brought it along to invite you to read it with me. "I salute the God presence in everyone I meet, and I know that as surely as I do this, the love dwelling in them responds to the same presence that is within me. We act in a unison of peace and understanding." Well, you see, she was calling me to higher ground. Not only did her email call me to higher ground, it helped me ask the question, what kind of chain reaction do I want to be responsible for in the world these days? Because I know, and I learned it here, I know that when you and I do something, say, for example, responding to a world issue, and we come from a heart of love and oneness, it sets in motion a certain kind of chain reaction. And when you and I do something in the world and we come from a heart of separation, anger, or even hatred, we set in motion a different kind of chain reaction. It's not good or bad. It's just data. It's just the way of the world. Dr. Martin Luther King spoke about it in this way, saying, hatred paralyzes life, love releases it. Hatred confuses life, love harmonizes it. Hatred darkens life, love illuminates it. And I can personalize that statement. I can say, hatred paralyzes me, and love releases me. Hatred confuses me, love harmonizes me. Hatred darkens my thinking, love illuminates me. So I'm really asking the question, how do I want to show up for my nation? And that's on a lot of people's minds right now. You know, we might say, what chain reaction do I want to set in motion? It's the same question. And I've learned it here, that before I do anything, it is better for me to check inside with my heart and find the center of unity and oneness and let it tell me what to do. It is better for me, and I learned it here. And when I do check inside and find that center of unity and oneness in my heart, I have discovered it will not advise me to harm, but to help. It will not advise me to hate, but to heal. It will not advise me to curse, but to bless. And most likely, it will not let me rest until I do something that matches what lives in the core of my heart. I don't know what you should do about the world. I mean, we may disagree, but I do know that there is a spirit of wisdom and clarity in you that does know. I do know that there is a voice of love in you that can help our world, and I want the whole world to hear it. So we have prepared blank postcards for you already addressed to our elected officials for you to write your thoughts and feelings on, that they may know what the spirit of oneness and unity and love in you holds to be important. Now, when you leave the service today, as you exit to the right, you'll find a table there in the social hall, and you can pick up one of these postcards, take it home, put a stamp on it, and mail it. And before you write anything on it to these elected officials, many of whom are already speaking up about the issues that we're facing on our borders, I'd invite you to pause for a moment first and to consult your heart and ask, what would oneness have me write? What would love say through me? And to let that endless source direct you to what is important and wants to be expressed. You know, before I do anything like that, before I write to anything important, I have to talk to myself. I have to talk to my own mind. And I say things like this, and I invite you to read them with me. Today I am guided by the love of the living Spirit. It fills me with clarity and with the expectation of good. I dismiss and discard all thoughts that distract me from the truth of oneness. I turn resolutely to the power of the one within me, and it circulates through my thinking. I know that I always have a silent partner within me guiding me into loving actions. I have to talk to myself. I have to get myself on the right page before I start writing. In this week's reading from Living the Science of Mind, that's the book we're using this whole year to guide us. Our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, says that if you and I want to make a difference in this world, we've got to realize that it all starts with what is living in our hearts. And he suggests that we start talking to ourselves about it to get ourselves on the right page. He says, "It is my inward desire that everything I touch, every person I think of, shall be blessed and helped. It is my affirmative prayer, which I completely accept, that even as I pass people in the street, some silent influence of good shall reach out from me to them." Oh my God. He just gave me my homework. Can you imagine that it is so much my conviction that there is a center of love and compassion in me, that it radiates from me, and that as I pass people on the street, it touches them? Oh my God. And he warns us. He warns us to be careful of thinking that our spiritual work is unimportant. And he advises us to keep in mind that what we pay attention to, we have choice over. That what we are fascinated with, we have choice over. And that what we are obsessed with affects everything. And don't underestimate that. So this month I'm asking myself, how do I decide what to pay attention to? Do I let Facebook decide for me? Because it will. Do I let the media decide for me? Because it will. Or do I just give up and pay attention to whatever is put in front of me? And do I pay more attention when my emotions are stimulated? And what's going on with my attention? And second part of the question, when I am paying attention to something, what kind of attention am I paying? What's the quality of my attention? Am I paying kind-hearted attention? Am I paying angry attention? Am I paying passive attention? Am I paying distracted attention? There's all kinds of ways to pay attention, and it's worth exploring the different ways of paying attention, because perhaps kind-hearted attention is when I listen attentively even to sides I disagree with. Maybe kind-hearted attention is when I'm not rushing to insert my opinion before the other person's finished speaking. Maybe kind-hearted attention is when I listen for the soul of the person to try and find out what is important to this being. And maybe angry attention is when I listen in such a way that I'm easily agitated by anything. Maybe that's when I want to return hurt for hurt. Maybe angry attention is when I'm invested in creating sides that are on polar opposites, and I want to demonize the people on the other side. Passive attention, maybe that's when I don't really check the facts. I just circulate them. Maybe passive attention is when I let somebody else create my reality. That's when I feel and behave and act and choose as part of the herd, the crowd, not as an individual. I'm just going with the mob. Distracted attention, maybe that's when I let myself become fascinated with whatever is on the newsreel, obsessed with whatever is on the media feed. Obsessed I become with lower level thinking. And maybe I can pay attention in a different way. Maybe I can pay spiritual attention to my world. And maybe that means that I look at the world through the filter of all of those values we've been exploring and studying, through connection, through compassion, through the filter of oneness, through the filter of holiness and sacredness, through the filter of resolution and grace, through the filter of an inherent and present goodness, through the filter of a truth that transcends opinions. No, attention is a valuable resource because what I pay attention to influences everything. And so when I give control over my attention away, it's like giving away my life. What's got your attention these days? What are you fascinated with at the moment? And what kind of chain reaction is it setting in motion? Have you ever become fascinated with something? It could be anything, a porcelain teacup, pens, cars, TV series, whatever it is. And then you become a collector of those things. Anybody? I used this example last year, and at least 3 people came and said, "That's me you're talking about, right?" Because I was talking about a friend I have who used to be a collector of pigs. Yeah, everything that had to do with pig. Porcelain pig cookie jars, clay pig ornaments, pig pens, pigs on T-shirts, And I imagine at the beginning, everything pig was a pleasure. When every pig was valuable. And I remember there came a point when she had enough. When you've had enough of something, it loses its hold. Its attraction diminishes. And her attention moved away from what used to be fascinating. Now, during the pig years, pigs occupied all of her time and attention. And after the pig era, a whole new world opened up. Here's the interesting piece. Whether she was paying attention to pigs or not, the world stayed the same. All sorts of things were happening in the world. Good things, bad things, in between things. It's just that her world was filled up with pigs. And nobody could tell her differently. And when she said no to that final pig present, she experienced a kind of freedom as a new energy rushed into her life, and she realized she could use that freed up energy to do something else for the world and in the world. Have you become a collector of pigs? Have you become a collector of evidence for why the world is full of pigs? Have you become a collector of evidence for your obsession? And haven't you had enough of pigs? Imagine this. When I give up my fascination with pigs, I might discover that there is enough creative energy available for me to do something creative and wonderful in this world, and I might stop being afraid that there isn't anything else. I've learned, and I learned it here, that when I change what I pay attention to, my experience of life changes. and that it can free me up to respond to what my heart of service wants to do in this world. I want to shift my attention. I want to shift my attention to what I can do. I want to shift my attention to the good that is already being done. I want to shift my attention to what spiritual good I can contribute. And I want to keep on shifting so that I stay alive and engaged and relevant and responsible for the chain reactions I set in motion. So I have to remind myself frequently, I have to talk to myself and I have to tell myself, don't sink into the swamp with everyone else. Don't go down with the mob. That's where they're going. Don't surrender into that easy path of being hypnotized and controlled. Don't become paralyzed. Don't underestimate the importance of staying awake to your own thinking. I'm just talking to myself. I wouldn't dare tell you what to do. When I pick up my beautiful attention and gently place it where I want it to be, I do set something in motion. Something starts. Call it a chain reaction. We don't become numb. We become powerful. We don't become compliant. We become thoughtful. We don't become out of touch. We become discerning. And when I'm thoughtful and discerning and powerful, I affect the people around me. And then when they are lifted up, they affect the people around them, like Mr. Rogers. Yeah, exactly right. And then on page 240 in Living the Science of Mind, our founder says, have you ever noticed how contagious a happy person is? Have you ever noticed how contagious a person is who has enthusiasm and joyful life? Their spirit permeates those around them, and the energy of their personality influences their environment and changes it. Have you ever noticed the effect that a calm person has on others and how safe it is in their presence? He goes on to say that one of the most remarkable examples in history of how this work was demonstrated in Mahatma Gandhi, who transmitted a kind of contagious peace to millions of people just by sitting. And Vincent Sheehan, who wrote a book about Gandhi and witnessed this, said that when he was in that presence, he felt it so completely that it was as if he had taken a refreshing bath in some stream of life. That's how it works. The consciousness that we embody radiates. And it sets in motion a chain reaction to which there is no limit. So there it is. What is in my heart? So I've got to keep on talking to myself to keep myself on the right page. And this is how I do it, and I invite you to join me by breathing in and exhaling, letting your eyes close as you imagine that these words or words similar to them are coming from that center of love in the middle of your being. There is an infinite power for good in creation, greater than I am. And I now accept it as the one and only active power in my life, the one and only active power in my life. I accept that. And its strength and its vitality is what is flowing through me right now as love, and it comes out through everything I think or say or do, and I embody this. I drink it in. I feel this universal love. Its energy and strength are present in me and through me in the world. It guides me to think and to choose and to act wisely. I invite you now to take a moment to sit quietly and contemplate the question, what would this goodness have me do? And let the next breath you take be deeper than the one before, followed by a sigh.